us from, whether in Lagos or from the rest of the world, welcome. We're streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. You can join the conversation by leaving a comment up on the live stream. You can also send your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 981 and use the hashtag freshlypressed981 on Twitter and tag us at smooth981FM, at Izotene for Fidel, and at Monsieur C with a triple E for Mr. C.
All right, let's get straight to it. The story this morning, quite interesting. We begin with this one from the Premium Times newspaper. EFCC ICPC officials accuse Buhari of sabotaging fight against corruption. Now, officials of Nigeria's anti-graft agencies, EFCC and ICPC, say their morale and commitment to work have been affected by the controversial presidential pardon of Jolin Yami, former governor of Taraba State, and Joshua Darie, former governor of Plateau State. Both men have been convicted and jailed for stealing state funds. Mr. C.
Okay, thank you, Victor. So, sometime last week, I think Thursday or Friday to be precise, the National Council for State approved pardons for 163 or 165 individuals. Well, prominent amongst this 165 were Messrs. Nyame and Dario. Now, these are former state governors of Plateau and Taraba, respectively, who were found guilty after a lengthy trial that spanned over 10 years each for both of them. And their subsequent appeals up to the Supreme Court were all dismissed. Now, the National Council for State, in its received wisdom, decided that these two individuals were deserving of a presidential pardon. And the factors that were allegedly used were old age and neglect. Now, Mrs. Nyame and Mrs. Darie are about 64 and 66 respectively. That is not really old.
They're in the prime of their life.
And then given the fact that there's no public record of the state of their health, it begs the question as to why they were so deserving of presidential pardon. And if that is the case, it also, some people have wondered why James Ibori wasn't included on this list, even though it could be argued that he wasn't convicted by Nigerian court. Now, to the story, officials of the EFCC and ICPC say it has the potential effect of lowering morale amongst the rank and file of both agencies, because they put in a lot of sweat, put in a lot of effort in investigating individuals like this, ensuring they're brought to court to have their day, and ensuring they're convicted, producing all the material, all the evidence, even at great risk to their lives. Now, it's been said that this is a major blow to this administration in its fight against corruption. Now, the question is, what fight? These trials predated this administration. Which individual has been tried by this administration from the start and has been convicted? I'm waiting to see the facts. Most of these convictions predate this administration. So what exactly is this fight against corruption? When you just oppose this against the fact that, take the Dasuki trial, they spent years verifying the gentleman, accusing him of all sorts of crimes under the sun. Where's that case today? He was granted bail, and that's the end. So what fight against corruption are they referring to?
Now, Mr. C, this is quite an interesting one, because obviously when we were looking at the campaign, when the president first started campaigning, a lot of people equated him with a fight against corruption. So going forward into the next presidential elections that we're going to see, how do we then, as the people who are going to vote and to, choose our candidates, how do we ensure that we get someone who does what he promises or what she promises?
So that's going to be a very difficult task, Chopin, and I'm going to explain why. As we speak, this is literally the third week in April. The parties have until the 3rd of June to produce their candidates. How many of us in this room right now are members of political parties? How many of us have our PVCs? So we're not going to be part of the process that throws up the candidates. So if we're not part of the process, and by extension it extends to the larger society, If you're not part of the process that selects a candidate, how then do you determine, how then do you select who would do the proper thing? Because then you're given a selection of the worst, and you have to choose the best of the worst. Good luck.
That was a
All
very
right.
dire good luck, but thank you.
Let's move on.
Let's take a look at our next story, which comes in from the Punch newspaper. Electoral Act: Buhari won't force Amici and Gege and others to resign. Now, going into the story, the president believes that the decision to quit his cabinet should be left for the individuals, claiming that the controversial provision in the Electoral Act demanding that such political appointees should resign had been overturned by the court. And so, Fidel, I want to actually ask you for your thoughts on this. Is it up to the president or is it up to the law?
I mean, I wouldn't use the word the provision has been overturned. Okay, fine. There's been. I mean, it's the job of the judiciary to interpret what the law has, what's written in our laws, right? But if the story is a lot to unpack, and I want to really just I don't want to dwell too much on the issues around Section 84 sub 12 because I mean it's still a subject of it's still a legal issue that is being tested in our courts, so I won't dwell on that. But on the president not forcing or pressuring any of his cabinet members to resign, I mean, in my opinion, I would think it's the proper thing to do, right, as per morality, not law now. Whether the law, what's it called, political appointees are captured as public officers, it's a different story. But I mean, when I look at the two members of the president's cabinet in question, that is the minister for
Transportation,
that's Rotimi Amici, and then
Minister for Labor and Employment.
Right, labor and employment. I mean, I don't know. In this is my opinion. I don't see how popular they are to stand a chance. And what exactly? I mean, both of them have been governors. So what exactly are they contesting for president? And I'm like, seriously? I mean, I feel like both gentlemen have so much going on right now in their portfolio. If they are nursing that idea, or if these days there are different pressure groups that are always say they are beckoning or calling on this person to run for office or declare. I feel like it's misplaced priority.
Now, one thing I want to ask is, what do you think about the president's statement and the president's directive to his people, considering the fact that we heard on Saturday from the APC, which actually said that all members that are holding political appointments and seeking participation in the forthcoming primaries must quit their positions? Doesn't this put the president in direct contention with his party?
I mean, look, the truth is, APC is not the laws or the bylaws of APC. Neither the Constitution nor the Electoral Act. So they can decide, or their own laws governing the party can decide to do how they please. It's not even up to Mr. President to decide how APC runs it, stuff. But at least he has that pressure. He has that might to, would I say, influence whatever decisions they are making. Is it in content? Does it contradict what the party is saying? Yes. Is he allowed to contradict what the party is saying? Yes. I mean, he has that muscle. He has that clout as the president of the Federal Republic. I mean, yes, he can. But I feel these gentlemen misplaced priorities.
All right, so let's move on now. I'm taking you back to the Premium Times newspaper. Gunmen attack Niger communities, kill police officer, one civilian, abduct others. Mr. C, armed men on Saturday evening attacked Shiroro local government area of Niger State, killing at least 2 people, including a police officer. Residents were said to have seen a group of gunmen invade their community, shooting sporadically while residents were breaking their Ramadan fast. This is not the first time we've seen an attack in this particular local government area in Niger State, or we're expecting that the security agencies should be upbeat and up and about, especially at this time where we know that, that particular local government seems to be very porous to attacks.
Okay, thank you, Victor. So, first of all, our thoughts go out to the family bodies of two individuals who have been identified as having been killed in the latest attack on Saturday evening. Now, Victor, as you rightly pointed out, in Shiroro local government area, it will interest our listeners to know that in the past 2 years, so this is 20 some or sometime in 2020 till date, over 27,678 people have been displaced in that particular local government. Several others have lost their lives. That
My
particular
goodness.
look. So it's not this Saturday was not an isolated incident. That in Niger State, 151,380 people have been displaced in the last 2 years. And these are figures coming from the state government. And you can safely say that these figures are underreported. Now, the same Niger State governor was quoted a few weeks ago as saying 13 of the local government areas in Niger State are controlled by terrorists. I refuse to call them bandits because there's a gazette describing them as terrorists. So, for how much longer will the indigents of Niger State, the residents of Niger State, continue to suffer these attacks? It's almost as if the state government has thrown up its arms in surrender and is saying they can't do anything about it. And which begs the question, do they have a local vigilante service or state run operation? Because when you look at the southwest states, they have a Motekun. In the southeast, you have a Bubeagu. So, what efforts have the Niger State government taken? How are they liaising with the security agencies in Niger State? When the State Security Council meets in Niger State, what precisely do they discuss? Because it almost seems or almost appears as if no lesson is learned from each attack, and with each succeeding attack, more pain, more injury is inflicted on the people. And this has to stop.
Absolutely disheartening. We've got your messages coming in up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. You can also use the hashtag freshlypressed981 up on Twitter, and we are taking comments on the live stream on YouTube and taking comments on WhatsApp on 0809 4440981. I got this one in. Emeka from Isola says, by pardoning these governors, it simply confirms the fear that Ganduje, who we saw pocketing cash, will never be prosecuted, and so on. Whilst Tony Chima says, the presidential pardon to high-profile criminals only happens when the youth permits old man whose administration never meant well to sit and take decisions on their behalf, according to Tony.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back. More stories for you. Stick around.
Stop that. So when you stop, double click. Yeah. If you double click immediately, it will stop immediately. Put the fader back up so that you are ready. I just laugh, you don't mind me. It's an interesting one. By the way, when we go in the locker room, you're gonna have to turn off the mics every time. No, hold on. No, actually, you'll have to turn off the mics because we'll be on soon. Okay, sounds good. Training. Soon we'll be able to take you off the training wheels and let you loose. What will you do when you're by yourself?
I hope it's not anytime soon.
Sometime soon. One day I'll do a stress test and I'll be like, hey guys, no feeling well today. See you later. People,
So we're back.
run. All right, and we are back coming in with more stories for you. First up from the Guardian newspaper, Lagos police arrest 32 kidnappers, killers, and recover 30 live ammunition. Now, we heard from the spokesperson for the command, Superintendent of Police Benjamin Hunde, who told newsmen that the arrest was part of efforts to tackle crime and criminality in the last month. Now, he said that the suspects were arrested following intelligence and detailed information on their activities, stressing that some of them were ambushed during an operation and had been on the wanted list following previous robberies in 2021. So, Fidel, I would love to get your take on the spate of arrests that we're seeing within the state.
I mean, but it's a holiday, and these stories are not really palatable. But I mean, look, there's problem in the land, and when we see these kind of reports, it's worrisome. I mean, the police is reporting cases of arson, murder, kidnap, armed robbery.
My goodness. So, Fidel, when I was looking at some of the details of these cases, I was there. It's, yes, it's not great. It's not a
So
great time to be in Lagos right now. So, should I run through some of what
indeed,
we saw?
indeed. So we see in a case where a man sets his fiance or his wife from
His
who
wife.
just returned from Scotland and
And
her
her
brother
brother.
on fire, and then there's another one of a man who smashes the head of a child with a stone, and he claims it was an accident that the child fell from his hand, and he was having a conversation with his wife. There's another one who is a help of a foreign national, a Japanese man precisely, who robs him, and another one who stabs with a spanner.
It's gruesome. It's
So see, it's worrisome that these kind of things are happening, and it's I think it's a reflection of the way our society is going. People are becoming ruthless. People are becoming desperate. It's
They're becoming less human.
less. Do you understand? It's worrisome, and I also want to. I mean, we do commend the efforts of the Nigerian police force in catching these people, but I think more importantly, and where I want to stress on is stopping these things before they happen. Okay, so there are also incidents of you know carjacking and theft, right? So where are these guys selling these cars to? Who are they selling these cars? Where are they selling these cars?
right.
We see batteries, car batteries, and inverters being stolen. Who are the people buying these things? Because the truth of the matter is that there is a market for it. That's why these guys are stealing these things. So I feel the police should do more in going to catch people who or apprehend people who are buying these stolen
Take away the demand,
you
you
know
take away the supply.
supply exactly. And also, I mean, I don't know how you really want to, continuously check on people's mental health, because this thing grows. I mean, in the case of
I mean, Fidel, you've really said it. We're a city under stress. We're a nation under stress, and when those stresses are there, we start to see cracks appear and grow when it comes to mental health as well. And with our lack of focus on mental health, so much passes through
it's
the
a lot,
cracks.
it's a lot, it's a lot.
All right, let's go to the Punch newspaper now, where there's this very interesting headline. It goes, despite CBN ban, 33.4 million Nigerians trade crypto, according to a report. Now, despite the Bank of Nigeria's restriction on cryptocurrencies related transactions in the country, a report by crypto platform has said about 33.4 million Nigerians trade or own crypto assets. Mr. Lee, that's about 35% of our population, despite the CBN order.
Yes. So thank you, Victor. So in spite of the CN ban,
Mm.
we see increasing numbers of Nigerians daily flocking into cryptocurrency trading and related activities.
What does that tell us?
So what it tells us is the ban is ineffective to a large extent,
Mm.
right? That's one. Two, you cannot ban you cannot ban a school of thought. So if people prescribe or identify with a school of thought, you cannot ban it. You can ban expressions of that school of thought, but you cannot ban the thought itself. Now, this country is increasingly becoming difficult day on day. And it appears the government is determined to frustrate the activities of regular, hardworking daily Nigerians. If you're not dealing with a petrol scarcity, you're dealing with a high cost of diesel, which is also as a result of diesel scarcity. You're dealing with security challenges, you're dealing with the absence of water. It's almost as if each Nigerian is a mini government unto himself. Now, this is an area that the government should look into. If the people are deeply concerned about it, look for ways to encourage them, but at the same time regulate them so that the law enforcement bit of that whole activity is maintained. You cannot say because a few individuals are engaged in fraudulent activities that you shut down cryptocurrency activities. No, it doesn't work that way. Because in our economy today, there are Nigerians who are engaged in fraud. Have we shut down the economy? Certainly not. So, and cryptocurrency is the way forward. For a lot of Nigerians, including myself, or some Nigerians, I wish I'd jumped onto the train a lot earlier. And that's the honest truth. Because one, it's a source of foreign exchange because you can readily get it. And even when you get it at the parallel market, it's at very interesting rate. If this will keep the youth of Nigeria busy, engaged, won't make them resort to crime, why not encourage them? And as you keep these individuals busy, they're also looking after other people. Because the same government will complain that a lot of the youth are engaged in crime. When you're frustrating them from engaging in cryptocurrency activities, because money can be made there. Yes, there will be losses, but people should educate themselves. But it's not something to be frowned upon. And if you look at the leading lights of the Western world, they're not clamping down on cryptocurrency transactions and activities. We should look for how we can encourage them because that is one way our economy will grow. The government can't do it for us.
I mean, I feel like the financial industry is the most regulated industry in the world anywhere, and a form of trade that has little or no backing and cannot be regulated is a cause for concern, no matter how juicy it looks. I don't feel like the whack-a-mole approach the CBN is using is the best. However, I have strong reservations against cryptocurrency.
But
I mean, we have
shouldn't
seen more
but,
and more countries in the world actually coming out, right? And
and shouldn't this be regulated by SEC?
So, like I spoke earlier, I'm not saying it shouldn't be regulated. It should be regulated. And believe it or not, cryptocurrency transactions can be monitored because the trades are registered and recorded on blocks called ledgers. So you can trace the source, you can trace the destination. So it's not like it cannot be monitored. It's just that do we have the resources to do it properly?
Mr. C,
Yes, sir.
we back normal currencies by maybe gold reserves or trust. How do we back cryptocurrencies? I think that's the question that most financial regulators cannot answer. And just like there was a South American country, I don't want to name names because I'm not too sure. There was a South American country that did try to use cryptocurrencies as a legal tender. It crashed. It couldn't work. Fine, some Asian countries allow it to go side by side, but they still maintain their currency. It's a form of trading that cannot be trusted. Until that trust can be established, it's hard to make it legal tender.
some people come out to say that that's the only form of currency they use, and there is implicit trust in that. But this is a conversation that can take a whole lot of time, so we'll move on. Let's take a look at this next article coming in from the Guardian newspaper. Federal government eyes revitalization of $20 billion Brass LNG project 19 years after. Although now, this came as a gas company, Greenville NLG, showed interest in the project, conceived back in 2003 and expected to cost about $20 billion. In a statement, we heard from the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timmy Silva, who said, "We want this project to pull through this time, and we will do everything possible to ensure that the final investment decision is taken as soon as possible." So, of course, when this was initiated under Obasanjo's administration, it was expected to do everything short of create world peace. But somehow, due to lack of political will, we find ourselves here how many years? Almost 2 decades after. So, what do you think has changed in the interim? Are we looking at Russia and Ukraine? What are we looking at? What's going on with our oil? Why is there this sudden renewed interest?
What has changed? Nothing, to be honest. I mean, we've always had these gas reserves in Nigeria. Even more gas reserves. We've had more gas than we've had the crude oil itself. And for the longest time, we were flaring it. Okay. And so, I mean, during the Obasanjo regime, there was this PPP to try and start to harness the gas that we produce, and well, that fell through the cracks, like most government projects anyway. And now we're seeing the minister for the state minister for petroleum saying that, oh, this time we're doing it with Greenville and we're optimistic that this will work. I don't know. Maybe the story doesn't, capture the details, what they are doing differently, basically. I don't know what they are doing differently. I like to be optimistic when it comes to tapping our minerals and natural resources. But if I just hope this is not one of those PPPs where you see some years down the line you see the private partner so disgruntled and saying how they've been cheated or muscled by the government, or maybe this administration, when there's a change in administration, the new administration doesn't honor the agreement that the previous administration that signed the contract said they were going to do. So I mean, I want to be optimistic. I don't know the details. I don't know how they're going to implement this, but let's look forward to it.
Life as a Nigerian, you want to be optimistic.
All right, Fred from Fast Text sent a message. Says this administration is just full of propaganda. They rode onto power on it, and that's how they're ruling. Apologies, we cannot continue with the messages. We need to go, but we must thank our analyst, Mr. C and Fidel. You can catch them on Twitter.
Yes, at Monsieur C with the triple E and at Izotene. Both their handles are already up on our post that we did just before the show, so go check them out.
Stories. Oh, that's Yabi gay.
Please, oh,
You get like misplaced priorities. Look all what is going on, and you're thinking of contesting for president. What's going on? That's it.
well, I mean, a lot of these guys will be weeded out just by people asking, so what did you do? What you were doing?
No, the sad thing is nobody's going to ask this question.